Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's episode, The Unsolved Disappearance of Andrew Gosden. During the course of creating this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking directly with Andrew's father, Kevin Gosden. He asked if I could share an important message, one that could make a real difference. If you're a young adult struggling with something in your life, feeling lost, or even considering going missing, please know that help is available. Before making any decisions, reach out. There are people who care, who want to listen, and who can help you find a way forward. If you need support in the UK, you can contact the Missing People Helpline at 116000. In the US, you can reach out to 1-800-THE-LOST. These numbers are completely confidential, free, and available 24/7. Andrew Paul Gosden, affectionately known as Roo by his family, was born on July 10, 1993 to Kevin and Glenys Gosden. Along with his older sister Charlotte, the family lived in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, England. As Andrew entered his teenage years, he was described as a bit of a loner, preferring the solitude of his bedroom, where he immersed himself in video games and music. His father, Kevin Gosden, recalled Andrew as deeply introspective and thoughtful. He was almost never moody, rarely having an outburst, and had an air of quiet maturity beyond his years. Teachers described him as reserved, highly intelligent, and brilliant in the subject of mathematics, a young man with a future full of promise. As the long days of the 2007 summer faded into memory, Andrew Gosden stepped into a new school year. In the days leading up to his disappearance and the first couple weeks of school, Andrew broke from his usual routine. Twice, instead of taking the bus home from school, he chose to walk the 4-mile journey home, a decision that, even at that time, puzzled his parents. The evening of September 13, 2007, was normal, with seemingly nothing out of the ordinary. The Gosden family shared dinner. Andrew spent an hour with his father, working on a jigsaw puzzle, and then he joined his mother to watch a few comedy shows on television, laughing as if nothing was amiss. But then came the morning of September 14, 2007, and something felt different. For the first time in recent memory, Andrew struggled to wake up. Normally punctual, composed, and self-sufficient, he seemed unusually irritable. His mother took note. It wasn't like him. Something was off. At precisely 8:05 a.m., Andrew Gosden stepped out of his home for what should have been an ordinary school day. A family friend, Reverend Alan Murray, spotted Andrew from a nearby park bench, watching him as he made his way toward his usual bus stop. But instead of boarding the school bus, Andrew took a different path, to a nearby ATM. After arriving at the ATM, Andrew withdrew £200 from his bank account, almost everything he had. Shortly after, a neighbor's CCTV camera captured Andrew returning home. What happened next suggested careful planning by Andrew, yet left behind a trail of still unanswered questions. Andrew arrived back home, and once inside, he placed his school uniform in the washing machine. His blazer was neatly draped over the back of a chair. He then changed into casual clothing, a black slipknot t-shirt and black jeans. Next, he packed a bag. The bag, adorned with patches of his favorite rock and metal bands, held only a wallet, keys, and his PlayStation Portable console. That was all he took. His passport remained on the shelf, as did a stack of birthday money, about £100 in cash. Both were left behind. Andrew hadn't packed a coat or sweatshirt, and he didn't pack the charger for his PlayStation Portable. At approximately 9 a.m., Andrew Gosden left home for the second time that morning. A neighbor's CCTV camera captured him walking down Littlemore Lane at 9:05 a.m. Andrew was on his way to Doncaster railway station, and when he arrived, he made a curious decision. Approaching the ticket counter, he requested a one-way ticket to London, a journey of around 150 miles for £31.40. A return ticket was only 50 pence, less than £1 more, yet Andrew insisted on the one-way, single fare. At 9:35 a.m., Andrew boarded the train bound for King's Cross Station in London. He traveled alone, blending in among the morning commuters. A fellow passenger sitting beside him later recalled his quiet demeanor. He barely spoke, absorbed in his video game as the world rushed by outside the window. Back in Doncaster, however, his absence at school did not go unnoticed. His teachers attempted to contact his parents, intending to alert them that he had failed to show up for morning classes. But a simple clerical error led to a devastating delay. The message was mistakenly left on another student's parents' phone. Andrew's family spent the entire day unaware that he had never arrived at school. That evening, the Gosden family sat down for dinner, assuming Andrew was either in the converted cellar, playing video games, or upstairs, perhaps doing homework. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. There was no reason to suspect anything was wrong. But when Andrew failed to come down for dinner, they checked his room. Empty. They searched the cellar. Nothing. At first, they rationalized his absence. Maybe he had lost track of time at a friend's house. Maybe he had gone for a walk. But as calls to his friends and neighbors came back with the same answer, no one had seen him. The worry deepened. Then came the revelation that changed everything. His fellow students hadn't seen him all day, and they finally learned that Andrew had never even been to school at all. By 7 p.m., the Gosdens contacted the police. In a desperate search for answers, Charlotte and Mr. Gosden retraced Andrew's usual route to and from school, scanning the streets, calling his name into the fading light. But the streets were empty. The answers they needed were nowhere to be found. 3 days after Andrew Gosden vanished, a critical clue surfaced. Police, after questioning staff at Doncaster railway station, confirmed what the family had feared. Andrew had traveled to London. The ticket seller remembered him distinctly, noting that the teenager had declined a return ticket, despite it costing only 50 pence more. This detail stood out to investigators. It even stood out to the ticket seller. But to Andrew's father, it wasn't necessarily suspicious. Andrew had acquaintances in London, places he could have stayed overnight. With this revelation, search efforts shifted to London. At first, the family focused on areas where they had relatives who might have seen or heard from him, but no one had. In the following days, the Gosden family traveled to London themselves, taking matters into their own hands. They distributed flyers and posters across the city. Meanwhile, South Yorkshire police worked to track his movements. They urged British Transport Police to review CCTV footage from King's Cross Station, where Andrew's train had arrived at 11:20 a.m. on September 14th. But in the crowds of people, he wasn't immediately identified. For 3 agonizing weeks, the investigation stalled, until a second, more detailed review of the footage revealed a breakthrough. On September 14th, 2007, at 11:25 a.m., Andrew Gosden was spotted on CCTV leaving the main entrance of King's Cross Station, stepping out into the heart of London, alone. This was the last confirmed sighting of him. With no further leads, police and the Gosden family began exploring a disturbing possibility. Maybe Andrew traveled to London to meet someone. But as they scoured his home computer, gaming consoles, and online activity, no messages, no chat logs, no trace of secret conversations were found. There was no evidence that Andrew had planned to meet anyone. With no new sightings, no communication, and no known motive for his trip, Andrew Gosden had seemingly vanished into thin air. Unlike most teenagers in 2007, he had little to no presence online. He never used the home computer to go online, and his father later confirmed that Andrew didn't even have an email address. He hadn't set up online accounts on his Xbox or PSP, and he showed no interest in social media. Investigators even reached out to Sony HQ, using the unique serial number of Andrew's PSP to determine if he had interacted with anyone through the device. Once again, they came up empty. The investigation returned to the obvious question: why had Andrew traveled to London in the first place? One of the theories suggested by his family was sightseeing. Andrew had always loved London. He had visited often with his family to see relatives and friends, and he had a particular fascination with museums and exhibitions. At the time, bus travel in London was free for children, meaning he could have easily navigated the city on his own. The Gosden family considered every possibility, and another theory stood out. It was possible that Andrew traveled to London for a music concert. On the night of his disappearance, several concerts were within walking distance of King's Cross. Could he have planned to attend one, blending into the crowd unnoticed? Mick Neville, a retired head of the Metropolitan Police's Central Images Unit, found this theory plausible and urged anyone who had been at those events to check their photos and videos. If Andrew had been there, perhaps he had been captured in the background. The Gosdens would later express frustration with the initial police response, claiming that investigators focused more on the family rather than expanding the search beyond King's Cross. As the months passed, possible sightings began to emerge. Of these, Andrew's father found 2 or 3 particularly credible. The most compelling lead placed Andrew at a Pizza Hut on Oxford Street on the day he vanished, just an hour's walk from King's Cross. But to the family's frustration, they claim this lead was never properly pursued by police. More sightings trickled in over the following weeks. On September 17, 2007, 3 days after his disappearance, Andrew was reportedly seen again on Oxford Street. The next day, someone matching his description was spotted sleeping in a park in Southwark. Then, on September 19th, a boy resembling Andrew disembarked a local train from Waterloo at Mortlake Station. Witnesses noted that by this time, he appeared to have acquired warmer clothing. A month later, on October 17th, a woman in Covent Garden approached a boy who bore a striking resemblance to Andrew. When she mentioned that he looked like the missing boy from TV, he quickly denied being Andrew and walked away. But the most mysterious lead came in November 2008, over a year after Andrew disappeared. A man approached Leominster Police Station in Herefordshire, using the intercom to say that he had information relevant to Andrew's disappearance. But before an officer could arrive, the man had left the police station. Soon after, someone claiming to be this same man wrote anonymously to the BBC after Andrew's case was featured on The One Show. He detailed a possible sighting in Shrewsbury, also from November 2008. As the years passed, sightings of Andrew Gosden continued to surface from all across the UK. Reports placed him in a park in Streatham, South Wales, Birkenhead, and Plymouth. In 2009, 2 additional sightings were reported, one outside the Natural History Museum and another in a pub in Southend. But none of them could be verified. Andrew's father grew increasingly frustrated. He claimed that police failed to properly follow up on many of these leads, most notably the Covent Garden sighting. The woman who had spoken to a boy resembling Andrew was not interviewed until 6 weeks after his disappearance. Precious time lost that could have made all the difference. Then, in June 2018, a new lead surfaced. The Gosden family received a tip about an online conversation with a user named Andy Rue, a nickname eerily similar to Andrew's family nickname, Rue. This user claimed their boyfriend had left them and that they needed £200 for rent. When another user offered to help, Andy Rue responded that they couldn't accept money because they didn't have a bank account, explaining that they had left home when they were 14. Police investigated the lead, but frustratingly, the person behind the account was never identified. Andrew has several distinctive features that could help identify him. He wore strong prescription glasses, he's deaf in his left ear, and he has a unique double ridge on his right ear. If you have any information that could help solve the disappearance of Andrew Gosden, you are asked to call Crime Stoppers at 0800-555-111. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.